He saved her ship from exploding without realizing. She was the Empress of 1,000 worlds, HFY asterisk. The salvage alarm screamed across Jake Morrison's workshop as another piece of space debris crashed into the asteroid belt near Station Omega 7. Jake wiped grease from his hands and looked up from the fusion engine he was repairing. Another day, another wreck to investigate. Jake had been running his small salvage operation for 3 years now, ever since he left the Earth Defense Corps. He preferred the quiet life of fixing broken ships and selling scrap metal to the traders who passed through this remote sector. It was honest work, and it kept him away from the politics and wars that seemed to follow humanity wherever they went. The proximity sensors showed a small craft had crash-landed on the dark side of asteroid B-47, about 2 clicks from his station. Jake suited up and took his salvage shuttle out to investigate. What he found made him whistle in amazement. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was sleek and silver, with curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its hull, and the technology looked centuries ahead of anything humans had developed. But what caught his attention most was the fact that it was still intact. Despite the violent crash, Jake docked his shuttle and approached the alien vessel carefully. His scanner showed life signs inside. One occupant, unconscious but alive. The airlock was damaged, but Jake managed to force it open with his plasma cutter. Inside, he found her. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin had a pale blue tint, and her hair was silver white, flowing like starlight. She wore a form-fitting suit that seemed to be made of the same material as her ship. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, and her breathing was shallow. Didn't hesitate. He had been a medic in the Defense Corps before becoming a salvage operator. He carefully lifted the unconscious woman and carried her back to his shuttle, then to his station's medical bay. For 2 days, Jake worked to save her life. Her physiology was different from humans, but similar enough that basic first aid and medical supplies worked. He set up in 4 drip, cleaned her wounds, and made sure she was comfortable. During this time, he also worked on repairing her ship. The technology was incredible. The power source was some kind of quantum reactor that generated more energy than a small star. The hull was made of a self-repairing metal that slowly healed damage over time. The navigation computer contained star charts of thousands of galaxies that Jake had never heard of. On the 3rd day, she woke up. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing irises that shifted color like aurora lights. She looked around the medical bay with confusion, then focused on Jake, who was sitting nearby reading technical manuals about alien technology. "Where am I?" she asked in perfect English. Though her voice had a musical quality, it made even simple words sound like poetry. "My salvage station," Jake replied, setting down his tablet. "You crashed on an asteroid nearby. I'm Jake Morrison." "What's your name?" She hesitated for a moment, studying his face. "I am Vera," she said finally. "Thank you for saving my life." Jake nodded. "Your ship is pretty banged up, but I think I can fix it. Might take a week or 2, though. That technology is way beyond anything I've worked with before." Vera sat up slowly, wincing as she moved. "You have been working on my ship? I hope you don't mind," Jake said quickly. "I'm a mechanic. When I see something broken, I try to fix. It's just who I am." For the first time, Vera smiled. It was a beautiful smile that seemed to light up the entire room. "I do not mind, Jake Morrison. In fact, I am grateful. Very few people would help a stranger, especially one who is clearly not from their world." Jake shrugged. "We're all just trying to get by out here in the black. Doesn't matter what planet you're from or what you look like. When someone needs help, you help them. That's just basic human decency." Vera looked at him with something like, wonder in her shifting eyes. Basic human decency, she repeated softly. I have traveled to many worlds, Jake Morrison, but I have rarely encountered such kindness without expectation of reward. Jake felt his cheeks warm under her gaze. Well, stay as long as you need to recover. I'll have your ship ready soon. Over the following days, Jake and Vera developed an easy friendship. She was curious about everything in his workshop, asking detailed questions about human technology and methods. Jake enjoyed explaining his work to someone who seemed genuinely interested and could keep up with the technical details. Vera was brilliant. She grasped complex engineering concepts instantly and even suggested improvements to some of Jake's designs. Her knowledge of physics and mathematics was staggering, though she claimed to be just a traveler when Jake asked about her background. Your people must have incredible schools, Jake commented one evening as they shared dinner in his small quarters. He had prepared a simple meal of protein bars and reconstituted vegetables, but Vera ate it as if it were a feast. Education is highly valued where I come from, Vera replied carefully. All citizens receive extensive training in multiple disciplines. Jake noticed she never talked about her home world directly, always speaking in vague terms. He respected her privacy, though. Everyone had secrets, especially out here in the frontier regions. What Jake didn't know was that 3 solar systems away, the greatest search operation in galactic history was underway. Thousands of ships were combing space, looking for any trace of the missing Empress Vera Thalen, ruler of the celestial empire that spanned over 1,000 worlds. The Empress had been traveling to a diplomatic summit when her personal cruiser was attacked by rebels. In the chaos of the battle, her escape pod had been damaged and knocked off course. The Imperial fleet had lost her signal in the interference of the asteroid belt. Every day that passed without finding their ray, Empress sent ripples of panic through the empire. Vera Thalen was not just a ruler. She was a symbol of unity for dozens of different species that had been brought together under her peaceful reign. Without her, the empire could collapse into civil war. But Vera Thalen, who Jake knew only as Vera, was content to spend her days in his workshop, learning about human ingenuity and experiencing a kind of simple kindness she had never known in her life of palaces and protocols. Jake, she said one afternoon as he worked on her ship's navigation system, tell me about your life before this station. Jake paused in his work. Not much to tell. I was a military engineer for 8 years, fought in the Centauri conflict and the Mars Independence War, got tired of building weapons and decided to build peace instead. You fought in wars? Vera asked, surprised. Yeah, but I never liked it. War is just organized destruction. I prefer creating things, fixing things, making them better. Jake gestured at her ship. Like this beauty. Whoever designed this was an artist as much as an engineer. Vera smiled at the compliment to her ship, but her expression grew thoughtful. Do you think peace is possible between different species? Different worlds? Jake considered the question seriously. I think so. Look at us. We're from completely different worlds, probably different star systems, and we're getting along fine. If we can do it, anybody can. It is not always so simple. Vera said softly. Sometimes leadership requires difficult choices. Sometimes peace must be enforced. Maybe, Jake agreed. But I think it starts with individuals. One person helping another, regardless of who they are or where they come from. Everything else builds from there. Vera looked at him with admiration. This simple human mechanic had articulated something that her best advisors and philosophers had struggled to express. True peace began with individual acts of kindness and understanding. That night, as Jake slept, Vera stood in the observation deck of his station, looking out at the stars. She had the power to summon fleets, to reshape the destiny of worlds. But she had never felt as valued as she did in this tiny workshop where a human mechanic treated her as an equal. For the first time in her life, Empress Vera Phelan understood what it meant to be truly free. As the days turned into weeks, something beautiful began to bloom between Jake and Vera. It started with shared meals and long conversations about technology, philosophy, and dreams. Jake found himself looking forward to her bright smile and musical laugh. Vera discovered that she loved the way Jake's eyes lit up when he talked about his work. Jake had nearly finished preparing her ship, but neither of them seemed eager to discuss her departure. Instead, they found excuses to spend more time together. Vera helped Jake with his other salvage projects, her advanced knowledge proving invaluable. Jake taught her how to cook human food and shared stories of Earth's history and culture. "Your people are remarkable," Vera said one evening as they watched the stars through Jake's observation window. "You have such passion for life, such determination to overcome any obstacle." "We're stubborn, I'll give you that," Jake replied, with a chuckle. "My grandmother used to say that humans are too dumb to know when to quit. Sometimes that's our greatest strength." Vera laughed, a sound like silver bells in the quiet of space. "I think your grandmother was very wise." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both acutely aware of how close they were sitting, how their hands almost touched on the small bench. Finally, Jake found the courage to speak. "Vera, I know you'll have to leave soon, but I want you to know that these past few weeks have been the best of my life. I've never met anyone like you." Vera turned to face him, her aurora eyes shimmering with emotion. "Jake, I have something to tell you. I am not who you think I am." Jake's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Before Vera could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Jake's communications array was receiving multiple incoming signals from ships approaching at high speed. "We've got company," Jake said, jumping up to check his sensors. What he saw made his blood run cold. "Vera, there are 12 warships heading straight for us. Big ones." Vera closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, there was a regal bearing in her posture that Jake had never seen before. "Jake Morrison," she said formally, "I am Empress Vera Phelan, ruler of the Celestial Empire. Those ships are my fleet, coming to rescue me." Jake stared at her in shock. "Empress, but you're just Vera. You helped me fix fusion coils. You learned to make coffee." "Yes," Vera said softly, reaching out to take his hand. "And those have been the most precious moments of my life. For the first time, someone saw me as just a person, not a symbol or a title. You showed me kindness without knowing who I was, without expecting anything in return." The ships were getting closer. Jake could see they were massive vessels, each one capable of destroying his small station with a single shot. "They'll want to take you away," Jake said, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Vera replied, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I have duties, responsibilities to billions of beings across 1,000 worlds. But Jake, what we have shared here is real. You have changed me." Jake pulled her into his arms, holding her close as if he could somehow keep her with him through sheer force of will. "I love you, Vera. I don't care if you're an empress or a scavenger. I love you, and I love you, Jake Morrison," she whispered against his chest. "You saved more than my ship. You saved my soul." The lead ship was hailing them on all frequencies. Soon, the small sanctuary they had built together would be invaded by the demands of galactic politics and imperial duty. But for one perfect moment, they were just Jake and Vera, two souls who had found love among the stars. The Imperial flagship. Celestial Dawn docked with Jake's small station with a precision that spoke of centuries of advanced technology. Jake watched through the observation window as dozens of figures in ornate uniforms and ceremonial armor filed through the airlock. At their head was a tall, imposing figure with golden skin and 4 arms, wearing the insignia of a fleet admiral. Your Imperial Majesty, the alien admiral said as he entered the main bay, immediately dropping to one knee. The entire entourage followed suit. We have searched every star system in this sector. The Empire rejoices at your safe return. Vera, now wearing her repaired suit, which seemed to shimmer with new authority, nodded gracefully. Rise, Admiral Kethver. I am well, thanks to the heroic efforts of Jake Morrison, citizen of Earth. Jake felt dozens of alien eyes studying him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. He had cleaned up as best he could, but he still looked like what he was, a working mechanic in coveralls, completely out of place among galactic royalty. If this human has aided your majesty, the Empire is in his debt, Admiral Kethver said formally. What reward would be appropriate? That is for the Empress to decide, Jake said quickly, uncomfortable with the attention. I just did what any decent person would do. Several of the aliens exchanged glances at his words. Admiral Kethver's expression was unreadable. Your Majesty, the Admiral continued, the Imperial Council has been in emergency session. There are reports of rebellion in the Outer Rim, and several number worlds are threatening to declare independence. Your presence is urgently required. Vera nodded gravely. I understand. Prepare my quarters aboard the flagship. We depart within the hour. As the Imperial entourage began making preparations, Vera drew Jake aside to his workshop, the place where their love had grown. Come with me, she said suddenly. Jake blinked in surprise. What? Come with me to the Imperial capital. I can make you a duke, give you an entire world to govern. You could have anything you desire. Jake looked around his small, cluttered workshop, the place he had called home for 3 years. Vera, I can't. This is who I am. I'm a mechanic, not a nobleman. I wouldn't fit into your world. You could learn, Vera insisted, desperation creeping into her voice. You're brilliant, kind, everything a leader should be. And you're an empress with responsibilities to billions of people. Jake replied gently. You can't abandon them for me. Vera's shoulders sagged. She knew he was right, but the thought of leaving him behind was almost unbearable. There is another option, she said quietly. I could abdicate, give up the throne, and stay here with you. Jake took her hands in his, looking directly into her shifting eyes. Vera, you told me about your empire, species that have been at war for centuries, now living in peace because of your leadership. Worlds that have been lifted out of poverty and ignorance. How many billions of beings depend on you? Trillions, she whispered. Then you already know what you have to do, Jake said. I won't let you abandon them for me. That wouldn't be the woman I fell in love with. Tears flowed freely down Vera's cheeks now. How can I leave you? How can I go back to that cold, lonely palace after knowing what it feels like to be truly loved? Jake pulled her close, memorizing the feel of her in his arms. You'll take a piece of me with you, and I'll keep a piece of you here. Love doesn't end just because we're apart. Admiral Kethver appeared in the doorway. Your Majesty, we must depart. The situation in the Outer Rim is deteriorating. Vera straightened, transforming once again from the woman Jake loved into the Empress her people needed. Very well. Jake Morrison, by Imperial decree, you are hereby granted the rank of Friend of the Empire, with all privileges and protections therein. If you ever need anything, anything at all, you need only ask. Jake smiled sadly. Just remember what we learned here. Sometimes the best way to lead is to serve. Vera kissed him one last time, pouring all her love and longing into that single moment. Then she turned and walked away, her retinue falling into step behind her. Jake watched from his observation window as the Imperial fleet disappeared into hyperspace, taking his heart with them into the vast darkness of space. 6 months had passed since Vera's departure, and Jake tried to return to his normal routine. He salvaged wrecks, repaired ships, and sold scrap metal to traders. But everything felt different now. The station seemed too quiet, too empty without. Her musical laughter echoing through the corridors. Jake had received several messages from Imperial couriers, offering him positions, wealth, even his own planet to govern. He politely declined them all. This simple life among the asteroids was where he belonged. One evening, as Jake was welding a hull breach on a damaged freighter, his communication array lit up with an incoming transmission marked with Imperial encryption codes. His heart raced as Vera's face appeared on the screen. "Jake," she said, and even through the static of interstellar communication, her voice filled his small workshop with warmth. "I hope this message finds you well." She looked different, more regal, wearing the formal robes of her office. But her eyes still held that familiar kindness that had made him fall in love with her. "I wanted you to know what has happened since I returned," she continued. "The rebellion in the Outer Rim has been resolved, but not through military force. I remembered what you taught me about leading through service, about treating everyone with basic decency, regardless of their species or status." The image shifted to show vast construction projects, hospitals, schools, and infrastructure being built on dozens of worlds. "Instead of sending warships, I sent engineers and teachers. Instead of punishment, I offered opportunity. The rebel worlds are now among the most loyal in the Empire because they know their Empress cares about their welfare." Jake smiled, proud of the woman he loved and the leader she had become. "I have established the Morrison Initiative," Vera continued, "a program that sends human engineers and mechanics throughout the Empire to share their knowledge and ingenuity. Thousands of worlds are benefiting from human creativity and determination." The transmission shifted again, showing Jake's own face on recruitment posters scattered across alien worlds. The caption read, "Human spirit. When someone needs help, you help them." "Your philosophy of basic human decency has become a cornerstone of Imperial policy," Vera said. "Every day I tried to ask myself, what would Jake do in this situation? It has made me a better ruler and a better person." Jake felt tears welling up in his eyes as he realized the impact their brief time together had made on the galaxy. "I must go now," Vera said, her voice becoming softer, more personal. "But I want you to know that not a day passes when I don't think of you. The love we shared in that little workshop has spread across 1,000 worlds, bringing hope and kindness to places that had forgotten what those words meant." She paused, and for a moment, she wasn't an Empress addressing a subject. She was just Vera, talking to the man she loved. "You saved more than my ship, Jake Morrison. You saved an empire by teaching its ruler what it truly means to serve others. Thank you for showing me that the greatest power in the universe isn't in fleets or weapons or technology. It's in one person caring about another." The transmission ended, leaving Jake alone in his workshop. But he didn't feel lonely anymore. He understood now that their love hadn't ended when she left. It had transformed into something even more powerful. It had become a force for good that would touch countless lives across the galaxy. Jake returned to his work with renewed purpose. He was still just a mechanic in a small salvage station, but he was also part of something larger. Every ship he repaired, every person he helped, every act of kindness he performed was connected to an Empress on a distant world, who carried his love in her heart as she guided trillions of beings toward a better future. Sometimes, Jake realized the greatest love stories aren't about two people staying together. Sometimes they're about two people inspiring each other to become more than they ever thought possible, and then carrying that inspiration out into the universe to make it a better place for everyone. In the vast darkness of space, love had found a way to light up 1,000 worlds. The end.